All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a political move that, honestly, nobody really saw coming. It was a moment where a progressive Democrat basically teamed up with a Republican president on one of the heaviest decisions a leader can make: the power to go to war. It sent Washington into a spin, and we're here to figure out what. And that right there is the puzzle at the heart of this whole thing. We're talking about Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat from Pennsylvania. He didn't just vote with President Trump on military strikes in Iran. He was all for it. In a political world this divided, crossing the aisle on something as fundamental as war powers, it's pretty much unheard of. So what was he thinking? Let's unpack his argument step by step. Okay, so first up, let's just set the scene and get into the specifics of Senator Fetterman's very unusual position. So here are the nuts and bolts. The U.S. carries out military strikes against Iran, and the administration gives it this big name, epic fury. So Congress decides to, reassert its authority. They put a resolution to a vote in the Senate, one that's designed to limit the president's power to take more military action without their okay. But then, and this is the shocker, Senator Fetterman announces he's voting no, which means he's siding with the president. And yeah, he wasn't exactly quiet about it. He called the military operation a noble, noble pursuit. I mean, he's using the same kind of language as the administration. This wasn't just a quiet vote. It was a full-throated endorsement. And that's what really made everyone's head turn. So, the big question is, why? Why did he take this position? Well, Fetterman's argument doesn't kick off with politics. Nope. For him, it all starts with the law itself. He pointed everyone directly to one specific law, the War Powers Resolution of 1973. He basically said that if you want to understand his vote, you have to understand this law. It's the one that was passed to put a check on the president's power to send the U.S. into a conflict without Congress signing off on it. And that law has a couple of really crucial requirements. First, the president has to let Congress know within 48 hours of sending in troops. And second, those troops have to be pulled out after 60 days unless Congress says otherwise. According to Fetterman, President Trump had followed those rules perfectly. And that right there is the bedrock of his legal argument. The president gave the 48-hour notice, and the 60-day clock hadn't run out. So from his perspective, no law was broken. The military action, in his view, was completely legal. So, following that logic, it leads right to his next point. If the president's actions were already legal, Fetterman started to question why they were even holding a vote to restrain him in the first place. He flat out called the resolution an empty gesture. His logic was super straightforward. If you're holding a vote to stop someone from breaking a law that they haven't actually broken, what's the point? He saw it as just political theater, not a necessary piece of legislation. So he essentially flipped the question back on his colleagues. Why are we even voting on this? He framed the whole thing as a solution looking for a problem, an attempt to fix a violation that, as far as he was concerned, never even happened. But beyond the whole legal argument, Fetterman made a much broader, almost philosophical point about the difference between just talking and, decisive leadership. He drew a really sharp contrast. On one side, he said you've got empty words, politicians posting on social media that Iran should never get a nuclear weapon. And on the other side, you've got what he called necessary action, the military steps the president took to, in his opinion, actually stop that from happening. And he really framed it as a challenge. He asked if his colleagues were actually committed to stopping a nuclear Iran, or if they were just gonna, as he put it, drop empty tweets. For Fetterman, this was a moment where you had to choose between rhetoric and results. Which brings us to the principle he says was guiding his entire decision-making process. This is the foundation for this whole unexpected political move. When it all came down to it, this was it for Senator Fetterman. When the military's in harm's way, your party affiliation has to take a back seat. He made it really clear that his loyalty in this moment was not to his party, but to the nation. And he was incredibly blunt about it. He said he wasn't worried about pressure from his political base. He claimed his only focus was on doing what he believed was the right thing. And in this case, he decided that supporting the president's military action was the right thing for the country's security. And so, Fetterman's vote leaves us all with this huge question, one that goes way beyond this single event. In an age where everything feels so polarized, what does it actually mean to put country before party? Is it a principled stand based on the law, or is it a betrayal of your political allies? When the stakes are this high, where do you draw the line? That's the question worth thinking about.